You're on Popok Live at the intersection of law and politics. And I got a lot to talk about, including some recent filings today. I'm going to try to group them in a way that makes a lot of sense. And then a new feature on Popok Live, if we can pull it off with your help. We're going to be taking some questions directly from the live chat, and I'm going to try to answer them. Hopefully, it's not going to be Stump the Popok, but with my producer Salty's help, I think we're going to be able to make it fun and entertaining. Let's get right down to it. I'm going to talk about the New York Attorney General refusing to throw out a $500 million civil fraud judgment against Donald Trump. Same day, the Manhattan DA has told the courts that they refuse to throw out the conviction, 34-count felony conviction of Donald Trump, and they don't want to see his sentencing go by the sidelines either. Then I'm going to touch on federal judges. There were 4 of them in 4 separate sentencings on Friday that are refusing to throw out the criminal convictions or sentencing of Jan 6 defendants just because Donald Trump keeps telling the world that he's going to pardon them. And then, of course, we got to revisit a series, there's about 8 of them, of civil cases for civil rights violations against Donald Trump, many of them in front of the same judge, Judge Mehta, which will live on and will live on beyond January the 20th. Then I'm going to touch on a couple of really quick kind of speed chess touch-ups here of things that happened right before we went on the air today. We got the new appointment by Donald Trump, or the nomination by Donald Trump of the Civil Rights Division, an all-important division of the Department of Justice. And he has selected Harmeet Dillon, somebody that Midas Touch and I know very well. We're going to talk about what that means for the Civil Rights Division and Harmeet Dillon's positions on various things that matter to our audience, like voting rights, transgender rights, abortion rights, and election denying, and the different people that she's represented along the way, and why I don't think this is a good thing for civil rights. We'll talk about that as well. And then lastly, I want to touch on something that Donald Trump said that just shows what a moron, I don't know any other way to put this, what a moron he is. He was being interviewed by Kristen Welker over the weekend. He said a lot of stupid things, a lot of dumb things. But one thing in particular, he just doesn't understand what birthright citizenship is. He doesn't understand the Constitution or the 14th Amendment. He made a couple of crazy, like, these aren't even rookie mistakes. This is something a 4th grader could easily understand what birthright citizenship is. And his relay to Kristen about what he thinks it is demonstrates he has no idea what it is, and yet he's trying to attack it. We'll cover it all on Popok Live. I'm glad you're here with us. Let's jump right in, and then at some point, our producer Salty is going to start popping up questions. Maybe not quite yet. Let me get a little rhythm going here. Thank you to the audience. We're 4 shows in, 4 weeks into Popok Live. Really appreciate the support. We've been averaging, I don't know, about 500,000 views per episode, and we're going to keep it going for as long as there's a need. I'm going to keep doing it. So let's talk about the New York Attorney General. We got a new letter. I've been waiting for this letter since before Thanksgiving, because the day before Thanksgiving, that's when Donald Trump's lawyer, John Sauer, he's the guy that, let's give it up. He's the guy that won a couple of major cases for Donald Trump at the United States Supreme Court. He won the Colorado 14th Amendment Section 3 insurrection case. It's all the rage today to talk about that one. And he won the immunity case for Donald Trump, and he was rewarded by being nominated to be the Solicitor General. That's the person who represents the government in all oral arguments at the United States Supreme Court, often referred to as the 10th Justice of the Supreme Court. But he's still currently part of Donald Trump's criminal defense team. He wrote a letter the day before Thanksgiving, or 2 days before Thanksgiving, just a letter. Just a letter to Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, the same person that Donald Trump has been attacking mercilessly as an animal, using racial slurs against her. Some of his proxies saying that they're going to put her fat ass in jail. Kash Patel, who's rumored to be up for the FBI position, has said that he's going to go after her and prosecute her. But she doesn't quake in her boots over things like this. So she got a letter from John Sauer on his letterhead, not Solicitor General letterhead, just private counsel letterhead. And in that letter, he said that she, for the good of the country, and this is not hyperbole, I'm telling you what the letter said, for the good of the country and for peace and prosperity and for harmony, she should just rip up the $500 million fraud judgment that she obtained after an 11-week trial against Donald Trump and the Trump Organization for the good of the country. In fact, he cited, as no case law, he cited the Thanksgiving Day proclamation of Abraham Lincoln. I don't know if that's the one where he pardoned the turkeys, but the Thanksgiving Day proclamation, the farewell address of George Washington. You see how Donald Trump thinks he should be up on Mount Rushmore with these people. And lastly, the speech that JFK, not RFK Jr., who JFK, John F. Kennedy, gave to Harvard, in which his argument was, see, we should just smash our swords into plowshares. We should just all get along, just like Abraham Lincoln said, and just rip up the $500 million judgment that has nothing to do with the presidency, was for the conduct of a business in New York, fraudulently, persistently under New York law, when it had nothing to do with the presidency or immunity or anything, just because Donald Trump became president. And I said, oh, this is going to be good. I can't wait till Letitia James's office responds. Now, it's taken a little bit of a while. I had to get past the Thanksgiving holiday. And now we got it today. And in it, signed by one of her colleagues, 2-page letter. Oh, let me mention one other thing. John Sauer's ego is so big because, of course, he works with Donald Trump. He could not help himself to remind Letitia James that he is going to be the Solicitor General of the United States. He couldn't help himself. Like, she doesn't read the papers. Like, and I'm going to be the future Solicitor General of the United States. Okay. And what does that have to do with the $500 million judgment? Absolutely nothing. So they finally got around to writing their letter today. And here's what the letter said. They said, first of all, we're not throwing away the $500 million judgment. It was hard fought. We got it on summary judgment. We got it after an 11-week trial, mounds of evidence against your client to show that he, and then they outline it, that he fraudulently made comments and representations to banks, insurers, and other counterparties about Donald Trump's financial affairs and financial statement, and used that to obtain loans and insurance policies and contracts and property transactions to which he was not entitled. That's the case. It hasn't changed. And she also went on to say in her letter that it's up on appeal. So you can't argue that continuing to litigate over the judgment will somehow impair or impede the office of the presidency. You're leading the charge on the appeal. He's appealing, not us, about the $500 million. And that appeal is up at the Intermediary Appellate Court in New York that I practice in front of, the First Department. And just to be frank here among friends, among just us here, us people on this audience, it's going to get whacked. I'm telling you that. And I've said it before, and I've said it on Hot Takes. That judgment's going to get a haircut. It is. Anybody that practices regularly in New York, when you get a judgment from a jury or a judge, you're like, well, don't start spending it until you go through the meat grinder of the first appellate, the appellate division, First Department, because they're notorious for cutting. It's going to get cut. I don't know about in half, but it's going to be still a several $100 million that he's going to owe. And then he can take the appeal up to the Court of Appeals, the highest court in New York, if he wants to. But to throw it out, now I assume they're going to take the response to this, in which they say it's no impairment. Civil suits can continue when a person takes the presidency, and you know it. And they even jabbed him a little bit and shivved him a little bit, John Sauer. They cited the case of Trump versus the United States that he handled. And they said, see, you know how non-presidential functions work and the fact that they're not immune. And then cited some other cases involving Bill Clinton versus Jones, and why that case continued under the Supreme Court, and some other cases. So what do I think is going to happen next? The Trump side and Sauer, he's got until January 20th, until he gets his new job, or until he gets confirmed, probably in February. He can write another letter, or he can send that letter to the appellate court and say, see, we asked nicely to have the $500 million judgment owned by the people of the state of New York ripped up, and they're not doing it. They're mean. Do something about it. Anybody. So I think we'll see a version of that. And here's my prediction. The First Department Appellate Division is going to say, we got your appeal under advisement. We're not staying anything. We're not vacating the judgment. I mean, we'll look at your appeal grounds, but we're not going to vacate the judgment. And when they filed their paper, it was all about, if you remember, it was all about Michael Cohen, right? Michael Cohen testified against this. This is similar to what their argument is in the sentencing I'm going to talk about next. It was all about Attorney General Letitia James, and she's biased, and she went after us. The judge is biased, and he went after us, and all this other stuff. So I think the appellate division is going to be like, yeah, we'll get around to your ruling in due time. We don't know when that is. It'll probably be after the inauguration, and we'll get back to you. But I love the fact that Letitia James is hanging in there. Follow her. I've said this on Hot Takes. Keep an eye on Tish James. She is going to be leading the charge come January 21st against Donald Trump and all of his executive orders and all of his attempts to take away voting rights, women's rights, reproductive rights, our health insurance, right? Our clean water, our clean air. It's going to be Letitia James, along with the attorney generals of California and other states that are going to be filing these suits one after another. And hopefully you're here for it on Legal AF and on our podcast and here on Popok Live. So I know I'm going to take a breather, Salty. We got any questions we want to pop up on the screen? I think I might have caught him by surprise on that one. What do we got? Okay. He's going to get those together. Okay. Salty said, move on, Popok. I said, all right, let's stay in New York. We've got the New York Attorney General refusing to throw out the judgment against Donald Trump. Now we got the Manhattan DA refusing to throw out the conviction, 34 felony count conviction of Donald Trump, which has also been sought. So let's talk about that. 2 pieces of paper Judge Merchan asked for. About 4 weeks ago, the judge agreed to do a couple of things. He agreed to stay the issuance of an order, I'm sure he's already written, a decision and order, about whether the immunity decision from the Supreme Court back in the summer, in July, somehow maps onto the convictions related to the 2016 Stormy Daniels hush money cover-up case, which it doesn't. He was just about ready to hit print and docket and give us a copy of it, when all of a sudden Donald Trump's lawyers, having won, right, on the 5th, having won the election, tried to lob in another motion. Well, we got another motion. It's going to be a motion to dismiss the conviction on justice grounds. Now, that's an odd motion, except in New York, under the criminal procedure law, the CPL, there is a provision to file to overturn a conviction if there's been manifest injustice. There's a bunch of factors. We call them the Clayton factors. There's about 8 of them. And you have to go through each of the factors and you have to win on all the factors in order to have this happen. Donald Trump's lawyers filed last week their brief. In no way did they address the Clayton factors. It was just a rehash of, as I said before, old, warmed over, leftovers, a week old in your refrigerator. That's what they gave the judge. It was your bias and your daughter's bias and your wife's bias. I'm not kidding. This is the argument. And Michael Cohen is biased and Midas Touch is biased. Yes, we made the papers. Michael Popok and Michael Cohen did a podcast together and they're biased. And this is not hyperbole. This was actually in their papers. But they didn't do anything to do the proper analysis. And they said at the end, and therefore, the conviction should be completely vacated and there should be no sentencing because we won. We won. There's nothing to see here. We're moving on to the White House. Okay. Judge says, all right, Manhattan DA, you serve your paper. A week later, and that's the last piece of paper I want to see. And we got it. 86 pages came in today, just today, by the Manhattan DA. I think it was extra long because they had to go through like all the factors. But here's the takeaway. Here's what, as we anticipated, because we predicted that this would kind of go along this way, Manhattan DA is looking the Judge Merchan, in the eye and saying the following. Whatever immunity or supremacy clause immunity or immunity that Donald Trump may have on January 20th, he doesn't have it now. There's no such thing as president-elect immunity. So you could sentence him right now, Judge. It certainly doesn't give any grounds to throw out a conviction about behavior that took place before he was even president, in 8 years ago. That's one. Second argument is, even if he got immunity on January 20th, it's a temporary condition. It's like a 72-hour virus. Eventually it resolves. Eventually it dissipates and he stops being a president. And therefore, whether you sentence him now, but delay him having to report to prison until after he comes out, if that's your sentence, until after he comes out of the office, his term is over, Or you put a pin in the whole process now and sentence him in 4 years. We don't care which, but it should be one of those two things. And what you shouldn't do is what he wants you to do, which is to take the hard fought conviction of 12 mediumly angry jurors in New York who convicted Donald Trump, right? After weeks and weeks and weeks of trial, dozens of witnesses, including Michael Cohen, including all of the co-conspirators, including people in Donald Trump's own organization. And as the Judge Merchan once labeled it, mountains and mountains of evidence against him. But here's my favorite part of the paper filed by the Manhattan DA. They did two things that I love. One, they gave a summary of all of the evidence against Donald Trump. All of it. This, and with cross-references, just to show you the strength of the case, which is one of the factors. They also, as we said was going to happen, Donald Trump's words were going to come back to bite him, and how many times he violated that gag order. They had a whole section, went on for about 5 pages, where they outlined all the ways that Donald Trump has abused the process, how he's violated the gag order 9 times that the judge put in place, how he's gone after witnesses, judges, prosecutors, and their families and their staff, even though when he said they shouldn't. They then had a special section where they said, and he particularly made violent references to Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA at the time. He said he was an animal. They said he should be put down. They had a picture of Donald Trump with a baseball bat moving into the back of the head of Alvin Bragg. This was all in there as reasons why no manifest injustice is present to allow for overturning of the conviction, and giving, again, the judge the out, which is sentence, sentence, sentence. Now, one of the parts that's getting a lot of attention is that the Manhattan DA also said that one of the doctrines the judge could use is to treat Donald Trump like he was dead. Let me try that again. There's a doctrine that's called, let me get it right. It's not abstention by death. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. It's a doctrine that says that when a person has died during the process, like let's say he got convicted and then died before he was sentenced, there's a way, it's abatement by death. Sorry. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for playing. Abatement by death doctrine. And they said, it's sort of like that. He's not dead, but he's going to be, in the White House for 4 years. So do the same thing. Just terminate the proceedings, a list that he's been convicted, and we'll take it from there 4 years from now. Do that. And so I saw one of the headlines in one of the corporate media that was like, prosecutors suggest Donald Trump better off dead or something like that. Not exactly, but I wanted to explain where that concept came from. So here's what I think is going to happen. The Judge Merchan, is not going to take any more papers. I mean, I think Donald Trump's going to ask for more because he's a pig and he's greedy. He's like, can I have another, can I have a reply brief? I know you said you couldn't, but they had 86 pages. And, the judge may, just to preserve the record, might say, sure, give me another 5 pages. Then I would say end of December, maybe he rolls over to January because of the holidays. He's going to rule. He's going to issue 2 rulings. He's going to deny the immunity motion to dismiss because he's going to find immunity doesn't apply to what happened in the Stormy Daniels case in the conviction. 2, he's going to say, as to the, how do I balance the office of the presidency powers with justice and public justice, and the fact that you're a convicted felon and that we have to observe, we have to celebrate the conviction of a jury. We don't just say, oh, thank you for playing. We're now ripping up all the hard work that you did. That doesn't instill confidence in our justice system. And because there's a Speedy Trial Act requirement, the 6th Amendment says you have the right to have a speedy trial, including sentencing. So I got to sentence you. I can wait 2 or 3 or 4 years. So I think the judge is going to say, I'm going to sentence you. I'm going to give you a chance to appeal it because you're going to appeal it anyway. But I'm going to sentence you even after January 20th. Then he's going to run off. Donald Trump and his lawyers are going to run off to the appellate court, try to get an emergency application. I don't know whether that survives or not. At the end of the day, here's what's going to happen. Donald Trump's not going to go to prison or jail while he's in the presidency. He's going to be sentenced likely at the end. And then at 82 years old or whatever he's going to be, he's going to have to serve whatever time. He's no longer the president. He's got to come out of that office one way or the other. And if he gets sentenced to a year or 2 years in jail, that's what he's going to do in his retirement. That's, I believe, what's going to happen with Judge Merchan and with the appellate courts in New York. And to answer the question, I think has come up in chats before, there's no federal out here. There's no way to get to the United States Supreme Court on this. I mean, he could try an emergency application, but the first stop on the emergency application train for a New York case is Justice Sotomayor, and she is not going to grant this emergency application to delay the sentencing or anything like that. Although it does implicate constitutional issues, so I think they're going to try to take it over to the United States Supreme Court. But for right now, it's going to stay within this hermetically sealed world of New York procedural and appellate matters. I'm going to cover a lot more coming up next. We're going to talk about federal judges that now have to deal with emboldened Jan 6th defendants. Yes, they're still getting prosecuted. They're still going to trial, despite the fact that their savior, Donald Trump, is offering to pardon everybody. But federal judges have to deal with it in the real world every day. There were 4 sentencings alone on just this past Friday, and I want to catch you up on what's happening with the civil cases, civil rights cases, including under the KKK Act that exists still against Donald Trump, and what will happen to them after January the 20th. Then I'm going to touch on Harmeet Dillon, who's been nominated to be the new civil rights division leader in the Department of Justice. That's the death knell for civil rights over the next 4 years. I'll explain to you why. And then I want to talk briefly at the end about birthright citizenship and the fact that Donald Trump doesn't understand what it is. I'll be doing all that and more, but first, a word from our sponsors. Come closer. I have a secret I want to share with you. I have a secret superpower that always gets me a seat in hard-to-get-into restaurants. I point to the maitre d' or host or hostess and ask right away when I walk in, hey, did anyone ever tell you you look exactly like, and now fill in the blank quickly of someone they at least vaguely look like, and smile. Like I get David Duchovny back in the day, or Senator Sheldon Whitehouse with less white hair. A secret weapon is a great asset to have in your back pocket. It helps you get ahead in life. And that's how Mack Weldon thinks about clothing, as a secret weapon. Timeless, classic style that's infused with performance fabrics and hidden details. Whether you're looking for light as air underwear, anti-odor tees, or sweaters with lightweight warmth, Mack Weldon has a full range of clothes that feel comfortable all day long and never go out of style. I adore all that Mack Weldon has to offer. And this time of year, I can't get enough of their sweater shop, where the sweaters combine the softest tech fabric and merino wool, or cashmere, like I'm a cardigan man. And I love the clean look and shawl collar with buttons of their warm knit cardigan in foxhole heather. And more importantly, my wife gives me that knowing wink when I come down the staircase in head-to-toe Mack Weldon. Mack Weldon's clothes are not flashy, just classic, always in style and made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. They look like regular clothes, but feel like the latest in modern comfort. They're the go-to choice for guys who want to look great without even trying. And I forgot to mention that Mack Weldon has you covered underneath too, with their air knit underwear collection of breathable underwear that keeps you cool, dry, and comfy all day. Get timeless looks with modern comfort from Mack Weldon. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code LegalAF. That's MackWeldon.com, promo code LegalAF. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored advice to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day, based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game, because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does. Optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits. including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, etc. It can also track your cycle and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so you can keep up your energy and stave off cravings. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/legalaf to get 15% off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me/legalaf for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. And welcome back to Popok Live. I'm going to hit some questions next. Another way to support the show. There's one there. Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Sorry, Salty. Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Legal AF, the YouTube channel in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network. I'm the chief curator over there. We got a lot of great content, including some contributors, Shan Wu and Dina Dahl, Karen Friedman, Ignifilo, Court Accountability Action, all over there. Let's do a question. All right, pop it up, Salty. Mary Ann Loretta Rust, how can he take the oath of office having previously broken the oath of office? Look, there's a lot of chatter on the internet and some other podcasts about what about 14th Amendment, Section 3? What about the insurrection clause? Look, the problem with that is we've gone through the United States Supreme Court process about, yes, what a state can do versus an insurrectionist. And there's a clear Supreme Court now precedent that says that a state can't remove from a federal office ballot somebody because they're an insurrectionist. So a lot of people have interpreted that to mean, but there's still an open question about the self-execution of the 14th Amendment, and there isn't. If you keep reading within the ruling on the we call it the Colorado case, the Colorado ballot case, there's no way this United States Supreme Court, quite the opposite, is going to allow anything but Congress to decide who gets sat in the president's chair, even though it's supposed to be separation of powers. It's not self-executing. You can't just file a lawsuit and make it happen. And this Congress, let's be frank, this Congress, there's no 2/3 of anything. And that's how much would have to be in order to get Donald Trump not to be seated into the presidency, or to find that he has a disability in the form of being an insurrectionist. So look, I like the energy that's out there about what do we do about either, vote tallies or fraud in the election. I'm all about getting rid of fraud in the election. It's just there wasn't any outcome determinative fraud in the election because some of the best minds on behalf of the Democrats have looked at it and have told me that it doesn't exist, not in an outcome determinative fashion. It's not something we want to hear. We want to hear, hey, there's a way to overturn, the 8 million or so votes that Kamala Harris didn't get that Joe Biden got. There isn't. I'd rather focus our time and our energy where it's going to do some good, which is opposing Donald Trump and meeting him on the battlefield in 1,000 lawsuits that are going to be launched by attorney generals like Letitia James, by public interest groups like the ACLU, by groups that are supported by the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF, by Court Accountability Action, and the rest, to protect from executive order abuse of power by Donald Trump, voting rights, protect rights of the undocumented, the disenfranchised and soon to be disenfranchised, our health care, our water, our air, and the rest. That we can do by federal court action. We did it before in the last term. We're going to do it again. And that's where we got to put our energy. And I got to get out of the rearview mirror of what should have happened or what could have happened. And now I got to focus on what will happen. And so that we're ready for it. We got to sharpen our elbows and make all this happen. We got another question before I move on. I saw one about E. Jean Carroll. Let me answer the one about E. Jean Carroll. What's going on with E. Jean Carroll's case and judgment? That's a very good question. People forget that. See, Donald Trump's in a little bit of a box because he wants to argue that he can't be bothered as the president of the United States with he can't have his powers impaired or undermined by, sullying himself with being involved with lawsuits or criminal actions. And that should all stop or be dismissed or vacated, right? Except he's litigating a number of these civil cases even as we speak. He didn't like the result in the E. Jean Carroll case, where she got not one but two judgments, one for $85 million and change, one for $5.5 million, because two separate federal juries adjudged him to be I would say a rapist, except under New York law at the time, It would be a sexual abuser, but you know where I'm going. So 2 separate juries found that, and punitive damages. There's over $100 million now running with interest. Donald Trump had to post a bond. The first one, he posted cash. The second one, he had to get a bonding company, and those bonds are sitting there against the judgment. He is continuing to prosecute his appeal at the Second Circuit. They haven't ruled. I'm thinking if they had oral argument. I think they had oral argument. I think Alina Habba, if you can believe it, was involved. Can I stop for a minute and talk about Alina Habba? If I had a client that this was my body of work for that client over the course of a couple of years, I got the client fined $1 million. I got the client convicted. His company's convicted on 19 counts of tax fraud and business record fraud. Got him convicted of 34 counts of business record fraud with the intention to commit another crime. Okay. Lost not one, but 2 sexual assault, abuse, defamation, and punitive damages cases, facing a $100 million fine. And I lost for them a $500 million fraud case. I would not get a promotion. Alina Habba is now going to be, and this is a good thing, not a bad thing, she's going to be the White House counsel, the White House counselor. She's going to take the Kellyanne Conway chair. And I love it. Let me tell you why. If this is the idiot, if this is the person that's going to be whispering with her lack of judgment and her lack of skill into Donald Trump's ear, we got it made. We got it made. I was told that I should worry about the second generation of Donald Trump, that he was going to come in with a more sophisticated, educated, trained group of people. They've been spending 4 years in institutes and think tanks and the Heritage Foundation and the America First Policy Institute, and they are tan, ready, and rested. Really? How about the clown show dumpster fire of the cabinet picks? How's that going? Not great. How's the transition team doing? Not so great. And now he's going to put Alina Habba as the lawyer for the president. That's different than the White House counsel position. The White House counsel position is an official position that represents the office of the president. Okay, whoever occupies that office. They're not supposed to be his personal attorney. But the White House, the counsel, that person, that's like the personal confidant of the president. And I love the fact that he's surrounding himself with people who have bent and broken minds. That will only help me, because they're the people that are going to push him to do things like try to end a constitutional right to birth citizenship by executive order, which you cannot do. But somebody like Alina Habba will tell him, go try it. And that's great, because that'll be another win, an easy win for people that are fair-minded and moderates. So you know what? She committed professional malpractice almost every time she touched a case for him. But if he wants to take her counsel, so be it. Back to the E. Jean Carroll case. It's on appeal. They're going to lose on the Trump side. Alina Habba is going to lose again on the Trump side. And that's going to be it. Second Circuit. This has nothing to do with the presidency. This will not get to the United States Supreme Court. And sometime in 2025, E. Jean Carroll is going to get $100 million from Donald Trump. And that's just the way it's going to be. Let me turn now to, we've been talking here. The theme is refusing to throw out. New York Attorney General refusing to throw out $500 million. Manhattan DA refusing to throw out criminal conviction. And now we got federal judges that are facing emboldened Jan 6 defendants, all coming in all puffed up. Forget about being contrite and asking for mercy of the court and showing that they're taking the responsibility. Forget it. These guys are walking, and mainly guys, these guys are walking around like, we're going to be out in 50 days. Soon as Donald Trump gets in, we got this made in the shade. And now the federal judges, including a couple appointed by Donald Trump or Republicans, are going to have to deal with these idiots, right? And so we got 4, just to give you an example, 4 just last Friday, okay? We have 1 in front of Amy Berman Jackson, who spent her time talking about the threat to democracy and the fact that anybody that was following Donald Trump that day was following somebody who was trying through tyranny to overthrow the democracy through authoritarianism. She took her shot while she was sentencing a Proud Boy. Guy Reffitt, who's one of the most violent of the Jan Sixers, he just came out and said it. He when he was being sentenced by Daphne Friedrich, when she sentenced him, and she's a Trumper, he just said bullshit, like just out loud in a federal court. Just no respect, complete contempt of court. She sentenced him to 7+ years, took him away. As he was going out, actually, they didn't remand him. I think he's going to report for sentencing in some period of time. When he was leaving the courtroom, he just said, Trump won. None of this matters. And people were yelling out to him, other Jan 6ers that have already gone to jail and got out. They were yelling out, guy, hang in there. You'll be out in 50 days or whatever it's going to be. Then we've got Royce Lampert, who's a Reagan appointee. He's been around for a bit. He sentenced a guy to a misdemeanor. This guy thought he was going home that day, and so did his public defender. He's like, I'm out of here. And Royce Lampert said, you're not going anywhere. I remand you to the custody of the marshals now. Take off your belt, your shoes. You're going with the marshals to serve your 1 year. This I love that, by the way. And as he's walking out, they're yelling out, don't worry, you'll be out Jan 21st or whatever it's going to be. I don't know about that. But in the meantime, as Royce Lampert said, Donald Trump's got the presidency pardon. I got a job to do. He's got his job to do. I got my job to do. And you're going right now. And then you've got another judge who's handled a lot of these cases, including the civil rights cases I'm going to talk about next. And that's Amit Mehta. Amit Mehta sentenced one of these people to 2.5 years in jail, and also took time to speak to history and said on the record, we're very short-sighted to forget what almost happened on Jan 6th and the attack on our democracy, and to try to use revisionist history to write it off and to make the Jan 6 people defendants political hostages of some. So the judges are uniformly standing tall and trying to do what they can in the face of what they know could be an impending set of pardons. I mean, I predicted that Donald Trump's going to sign an executive, going to sign a pardon that's going to have an attached Excel spreadsheet of names, because, the Constitution doesn't tell you what the pardon has to look like in terms of format. So it's going to have like this Excel spreadsheet of like 2,000 names. It's going to be like every Jan 6er, that was prosecuted or investigated. So everybody in MAGA Congress, from Marjorie Taylor Greene on down, and probably Gates and the rest, and anybody that asked him for one, everybody in his cabinet at the time or coming into his cabinet. I mean, that never stopped anybody. Have you seen the list of ambassadors, counselors, trade representatives? I made a joke internally to Midas Touch today. I said, what does the help wanted say? Trump administration looking to fill some vacancies, no applicable skills required, a pardon, a conviction, sexual predator behavior, ethics violations, or time in jail is a plus. I mean, everybody. Peter Navarro spent 4 months in jail down in Miami. He's now a trade representative for Donald Trump, or he's going to be, right? The guy that just became another ambassador, he got tried on federal crimes related to being an unregistered foreign agent. If you get pardoned, like the father-in-law of Jared Kushner or the father of Jared Kushner, you get an ambassadorship. This is the most criminal, larcenous president-elect we've ever had. Does this surprise you? He's the most criminal president we've ever had. And just get ready. There's a reason we formed Legal AF, the YouTube channel, a month or two before the election. Sure, I wanted to get Kamala Harris elected, but I also wanted to be on the other side of the election just in case. And now you see why. So we've got all that. I want to talk. Any more questions? Let me see. Will Department of Justice... I got 2 questions I'm going to answer. What is going on with Trump's $100 million suit against the U.S. for records case issues? That's interesting. I have to think about that one a little bit more. Will the Department of Justice have to represent him in any of his charges? I mean, no. I mean, if there's any new things that happen, of course, the Department of Justice steps in for him. But I don't see the Department of Justice, even though they'll try, led by Pam Bondi, led by all these other people I'm going to talk about, like Harmeet Dillon. Will they try to step in for him if he gets sued? Because he's going to get sued again. When he gets sued in his official capacity, he's going to be represented by the United States of America. And that means the Department of Justice for sure. And ultimately the Solicitor General. Let me answer a question about Joni Ernst, because I've done a lot on her, the senator that I thought held the key to Hegseth. I thought there was no way she was ever going to let this guy get through, given the fact that she's in she is has an authentic story about being a rape victim. She was sexually abused. She was physically abused by her former husband. She's a lieutenant colonel who served with valor during war for the Iowa military. I'm thinking there's no way Pete Hegseth's going to get by. But I think they got to Joni. Let's see what the question is. Is she warming up to Hegseth? Is she playing politics? I can't imagine a female vet would vote aye for him to be named to that position. I agree with you. I mean, I thought that she'd ask questions like, well, you have a Christian nationalist male hegemony position that women should not be in combat leadership positions. Why don't you tell me more about that position? Major. She's lieutenant colonel. But I was also worried that she got named to be, Joni Ernst got named to be the head of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, caucus to work with Elon Musk. I'm like, okay, maybe they got to Joni, because now she reported that based on some interviews she had with Hegseth today, she got a little bit warmer. She feels more comfortable. I'm like, how could you possibly, which part of his misogyny, alleged sex abuse, alleged fiscal mismanagement, alleged public drunkenness, which alleged desiring to start a apocalypse and have a civil war where the military takes a position based on his own writings, which part of that did you get comfortable with? They got to Joni. I thought when they passed her over for the number 3 position in the Senate, where she wanted to be the whip, the one that gets the votes together, and they gave it to another old white guy. I said, oh, okay. They passed her over for Department of Defense, the position Hegseth's going for. I'm thinking, all right, and she took out Gates. I mean, the reporting is she met with Gates and said, you're not getting Attorney General. I'm thinking, all right, here we go. Now we got to rely on Senator Tammy Duckworth, a decorated war veteran who lost both her legs and part of her arm in a helicopter crash. She's going to have to do it for the Democrats, because I see Ernst is starting to lose her enthusiasm to oppose anything MAGA, because MAGA is attacking the crap out of her. I'm going to talk more about MAGA. Speaking of MAGA, Harmeet Dillon, one of the MAGA darling lawyers, is getting civil rights as her new position at the Department of Justice. And I'll tell you why that's an affront to everything that I believe in when we come back. And then I'm going to talk about Donald Trump not understanding birthright citizenship. But first, another word from our sponsors. Have you heard about this new bioactive whole food that seems almost too good to be true? It's got thousands upon thousands of 5-star reviews and literally life-changing testimonials from users. Just having witnessed firsthand the birth of my baby daughter this summer, I know that colostrum is the first nutrition we receive in life and contains all of the essential nutrients our bodies need in order to thrive. Armra colostrum is a proprietary concentrate of bovine colostrum that harnesses over 400 living bioactive nutrients that strengthen the barriers of your body and fuel cellular health for thousands of research-backed health benefits. It strengthens immunity, ignites metabolism, fortifies gut health, activates hair growth and skin radiance, powers fitness performance and recovery, and confers powerful anti-aging benefits. Armra colostrum is premium bovine colostrum concentrate, and unlike any other product on the market, it is uniquely optimized for human health, sustainable, and was developed with the highest integrity from start to finish. Armra starts with sustainably sourced colostrum from grass-fed cows from their own co-op of dairy farms in the USA, and they strictly abide by calf-first sourcing, only sourcing the surplus supply of colostrum after calves receive all the nutrients they need. Unlike most colostrums, which use heat pasteurization that depletes nutrient potency, Armra leverages their proprietary cold chain biopotent pasteurization technology, an innovative process that preserves the integrity and bioavailability of hundreds of bioactive nutrients. And Armra Colostrum's unwavering commitment to quality control is evident throughout our entire process. They go above and above industry standards and invest in an expensive auditing and third-party testing and analysis pipeline to ensure Armra Colostrum meets the highest bar of purity and efficacy, which includes being certified glyphosate-free. Armra colostrum fortifies gut health and ignites metabolism, combats bloating, and you'll feel lighter using it. Probiotics are touted as a gut health solution, but they only address one part of the four-part gut wall, and most products on the market are dead before they even reach your gut. Armra colostrum naturally fortifies your entire gut wall system, optimizing your microbiome and strengthening the gut wall architecture, which guards against irritants that can trigger symptoms like bloating and constipation. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/legalaf or enter legalaf to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/legalaf. I want to tell you about one of my favorite brands in the entire health and wellness world, Qualia. I've never felt better lately, in part because of the Qualia's products I'm using regularly. Qualia's science team is tackling some of the most challenging aspects of health and wellness that we all face. Human longevity to optimizing mental health. Qualia's health formulas meticulously blend many ingredients with complementary relationships into easy once-a-day formulas. This makes supporting some of our most nutritionally complex health needs very simple. Qualia conducts pilot studies and double-blind placebo-controlled clinical studies on many of their products, all while keeping each formula vegan, non-GMO, gluten-free, and backed by a 100-day refund guarantee. I encourage you to check out their rapidly expanding product line of supplements that support so many common health needs. One of my personal go-tos is Qualia's Senolytic, a clinically tested formula that helps the body naturally eliminate senescent cells so you can age better. These senescent cells cause the symptoms of aging such as aches and discomfort, slow workout recoveries, sluggish mental and physical energy associated with that, middle-age feeling. Take a look at Qualia's line of truly inspired health formulas. Go to qualialife.com/legalaf and use code legalaf at checkout for up to 15% off your purchase. That's QUALIA life.com/legalaf for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Qualia, for sponsoring this episode. All right, we're back. Let me go back and hit a question that was almost like stump the Popok there for a minute. What about that $100 million suit that Donald Trump filed about Mar-a-Lago to get compensated for everything? I'd forgotten about that one. That was an administrative claim under the Federal Torts Act. That's still pending. It has to go through an administrative claim. You can't sue the government without its permission. You have to go through a certain process. Maybe when the government is in the hands of Donald Trump's people, but I think he's going to be hard-pressed to continue to prosecute that claim, especially when he's arguing, on the other hand, he can't be bothered. It will impair and impede the office of the presidency. It's very hard to use it as a sword and a shield. Don't go after me, but I'll go after you. I mean, I think he may try. And again, he'll have people like Alina Habba whispering in his ear. I saw another question that popped up about what about, I knew this just shows you how steep the audience is along with me in some of the nerdiest aspects of this, because I got it by just this reference. What about that person that shot her father? I was like, okay, I got that. I could do that one. Yeah, I like my Surgeon General nominees who didn't accidentally kill their fathers. I mean, call me crazy. I get it. She was 13. The gun was loaded. It fell off a shelf and shot her father in the head. I would probably give her a lot more credit as a personal story if this Surgeon General candidate, who's been on the Fox News as a celebrity doctor, had been honest with the American people in the way she wrote her memoir. Instead, she wrote her memoir something like this. When I was 13, my father died in a horrible accident, spurting blood, and I was powerless to do anything. And that's why I went into medicine. And that's the last time she mentions it in her memoir. Now, it's one thing to say, well, she was 13. I was like, yeah, but she was 30 when she wrote the memoir. So here's what she should have written. One day when I went to my father's closet, or the closet in his bedroom, to go get a tape measure or whatever she was looking for, a fishing tackle box fell, a gun fell to the floor, a bullet flew out and hit my father in the head. It was an accident. I didn't do it. But from there, I became a doctor. I mean, I would at least give that person a lot more credit than trying to hoodwink the American people, especially when you want to be the top doc in America. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure it's going to come up during the confirmation hearing one way or another. Let me get back now to the last couple of topics here, particularly let me talk about Harmeet Dillon for a minute. Now, for those that want to go scramble and look it up, I've got a little bit of a history with Harmeet Dillon. I mean, from a legal professional standpoint. Harmeet Dillon represented Marjorie Taylor Greene. You may famously or infamously remember we had a case, Midas Touch had a case that we talked about in which we went after Marjorie Taylor Greene because she was using her private, her private quote unquote personal Twitter. See how long ago this was? I get to call it Twitter again, to go after people. And she was using her official, rep Marjorie Taylor Greene or whatever it was, to do sort of benign things. But she did all the dirty work over here. And we argued, no, we got blocked. Midas Touch got blocked. And we were like, you can't block us from the public square. She said, oh, it's my private account. Well, no, it's not your private account because you're not operating it that way. And we filed a lawsuit. And she was represented by Harmeet Dillon. And we won. Okay, so, but I know Harmeet also, in case people scramble, she was co-counsel with me in a case where we sued on behalf of agents who placed PPP loans. They were the ones that got the loans together, the package together, and they were supposed to get paid a commission, and they never got paid. The big banks screwed the little agents and didn't pay them. We represented the little agents against the big banks, and she was part of the team that did it with me. So I sort of know her. Now, let me just tell you, she's terrible for civil rights. How else to put this? She's a chairperson. She was on the committee for the Republican National Committee. She tried to get the chair position that Lara Trump got. She got beat. But she's always been a MAGA darling. She's represented Tucker Carlson. She's represented a couple of other right-wing organizations and people. She represented, let me just get my list right here before I move on too far during my live. Let's see. She represented Marjorie Taylor Greene, Project Veritas, and Tucker Carlson, among other things. She has very strong positions, which I think fair-minded people would interpret as being kind of COVID denying, anti-transgender people, anti-abortion, against and trying to undermine voting rights. She's against mail-in ballots, absentee ballots, and anything that Donald Trump doesn't like in terms of ballots. And yet, this is interesting. She is also a member, and I'm not outing her, she talks about it. She's a member of the Sikh community, and she gave a Sikh prayer during the MAGA Trump Republican National Convention and got booed and got attacked as being unpatriotic. And I'm thinking, God, if anybody didn't have a signal that maybe you're in the wrong party, it would be Harmeet. But she's so hard line on these other positions that to have her as head of the Civil Rights Division would be the equivalent of, I don't know, Jeff Clark, Rudy Giuliani. I could think of barely worse, Sidney Powell. These are the types of people. So between the combination of Pam Bondi, this out for retribution, lock her up, a former attorney general for Florida, combined with Harmeet Dillon and Todd Blanche, who represented Donald Trump as the big three in the Department of Justice, supported maybe by, heaven help us, Kash Patel as FBI director. It's so bad that I've seen MAGA newspapers, including ones controlled by Rupert Murdoch, beg Donald Trump in writing not to weaponize the Department of Justice or the FBI. And that's what's going to happen. Everything that the Civil Rights Division holds dear. Now, look, Merrick Garland got a lot of deserved crap, in criticism for how he handled the Department of Justice. His owlish ways, his methodical, analysis paralysis, couldn't get out of his own way, delayed everything by a year, didn't, assign the wrong people to prosecute. The only thing that came out of it people are going to remember is Donald Trump went free and Hunter Biden got convicted, all under Merrick Garland. But his department, the Department of Justice and its Civil Rights Division, did a lot of good things during the last 4 years that you'll never see in the next 4 years. Going after police departments for police brutality, where they have systemic discrimination against certain communities in their cities. Voting rights protection, abortion and abortion rights protection. Forget it. It's all done. The Civil Rights Division is going to be like just like a stuffed bird, put it on the shelf. It's not going to do a darn thing. And it's going to be the opposite. It's going to go after, election officials and voting rights officials. It's going to tear down the Voting Rights Act even further. It's not going to find that there's any violation with gerrymandering maps in any attempt to disenfranchise Black or brown people in America. They'll have blinders on. Justice won't be blind, but this Civil Rights Division will certainly be blind to the injuries and civil rights violations of Americans. And that's just the way it is. And what we can do about it is make sure she goes through the grist mill of the confirmation hearing. She's going to have to go through the Senate Judiciary Committee, and the Democrats on there are going to have to grill the crap out of Harmeet Dillon. And they got plenty of fodder. She's very public. She goes on Fox all the time. She's written a lot. She set up like an institute. She's been lining up to get this job for a long, long time. She's been dying to be the Attorney General or this case, the Civil Rights Division head for like 20 years. And now she got it as a reward for always supporting Donald Trump and MAGA. So we got to keep an eye on Harmeet Dillon. Then lastly, let me end the show with this birthright citizenship. I first of all, I hate the phrase. I hate the phrase. We have citizenship by birth, right? Which we're not the only ones. Canada and Mexico have it too. It's a North American principle. As opposed to citizenship by blood. Citizenship by blood countries, a lot of Europe does this. It's the nationality of your parents defines your nationality. We don't have that. Canada, Mexico, United States, and our founders and our framers put it in there, and it's in the 14th Amendment. It says if you're born here, you're a U.S. citizen, regardless of who your parents are, regardless of whether they're documented or not. I mean, it doesn't say all that, but that's what it says. But to MAGA and their attacks on immigration and the undocumented and the disenfranchised, what they hear is anchor baby. Oh, it's an anchor baby. People are coming here from other countries in birth tourism, and they're trying to, and undocumented, they're trying to cross the border just in time to drop the baby. I mean, this is Trump's way of thinking. If you think I'm kidding, you should hear his interview with Kristen Welker over the weekend. Now, I don't know if it's because he lived in Florida for all these years and he's just not there, but he misinterpreted and got all tied up with two different concepts, because he said, what we don't want is people coming here and the baby crossing over into American territory and putting their foot on American soil. I don't think he understands how infants work, or newborns, or toddlers. Okay. So in his view, the baby puts their foot on American soil and poof, they're Americans no matter where they're born. Wrong. What he's thinking of, I think, is that there was a policy that's now been rescinded, that if a Cuban, and it was really Cubans, if Cubans put one foot on dry soil of America, right, they were allowed to stay while their immigration status was being resolved. Right? It was called wet foot, dry foot. Dry foot, you made it to land, you stay. We'll work out your documents later. Wet foot, you never made it. All those cases like that. That's it. That was only given to the Cuban community. It was not given in a terrible, terrible civil rights violation and an inhumane way to the Haitian community, who needed it a lot more. But because the Cuban community is more powerful in Miami than the Haitian community, they got that and the Haitians didn't. But that's what he's confusing. Babies, I don't know when the last time he saw one, babies don't walk or crawl over a line to make them American. If they're born in America, they are Americans, regardless of whether their parents are or not. And the reason they want to attack birthright citizenship, which I just call good old-fashioned 14th Amendment, which I've been learning since I was a child, is because they want to use it as the basis of their inhumane, undignified immigration policy, right? It's a way to separate families. And the way that Donald Trump and Tom Homan, who's going to be the border czar, the way they reconcile it is, we're not going to separate families. We're going to deport everybody, including the American citizen. That's the part that gets lost in the dialogue. Donald Trump wants to deport American children. That's what the headline should read in corporate media, but it doesn't. Because that would definitely, if you had that in a poll, I'll probably put a poll up in Legal AF on the community section. I'm going to put a poll up. Should American babies, American citizen children, be deported to countries they never came from? Right? So that's their solution. Put them all in cages first, and then ship them all out and have them fight their way back. I've seen other articles that have said, oh, the easiest way to solve the immigration problem is to end temporary protective status, TPS, which is how the Haitians ended up in Springfield, Ohio. Do you know why we have TPS and other forms of amnesty? It's because these people will be killed or die in their countries. And we are supposed to be bigger hearted, more humane, a country where, and I see it every day, I take a ferry to work. I literally see the Statue of Liberty every day that I commute. I'm fortunate. I'm lucky, and I appreciate it. And sometimes when I'm really tired, I get a little teary-eyed when I see it. And I've been to Ellis Island, and my grandparents came through Ellis Island, all of them. And so we're supposed to be that country, not the country of round them up, deport them, put them in concentration camps. What did one of the leading senators say today? He said, undocumented, start packing. Or Stephen Miller at the Madison Square Garden event. America's for Americans. Who's he talking to? Who? The indigenous American Indians? The people that we took the country from? Them? It's just, I mean, and this is a failing, and I'm going to be fair here, as I try to be, without blowing smoke or sunshine. This is a failing of both parties for the last 50 years, to not have a dignified, appropriate immigration process, creating the crisis that we now have. We haven't even gotten to the part where Donald Trump tries to issue an executive order to invoke the Alien Enemies Act to deport people who are here as enemy combatants. We're not even there yet. But for Donald Trump to not understand basic civics, basics of the Constitution, despite being the president now twice, that he thinks by executive order he can rescind somebody's citizenship. Think about that. That's who just got elected president of the United States. So the quicker we energize, we lean forward, not back. We focus on his executive orders. We get the lawsuits are already drafted. I assure you, there are dozens of lawsuits already drafted. I've seen some of them that are ready for just fill in the names and the blanks to be filed. We know what his playbook is because Donald Trump got elected on Project 2025. Just read the 800 pages. You will see exactly the lawsuits you need to file. And they will be filed. We need to tie him up and tie him down. For those that love literature, think of Gulliver's Travels and think of the Lilliputians tying down Donald Trump one pin at a time, one lawsuit at a time. We got to tie him up and tie him down from now until the midterms. And then we got to take back our country, at the midterms. And that's where the energy, focus, enthusiasm needs to be. Forget the fatigue. Everyone's like, oh, I don't have it in me. I can't do it again. I can't save democracy again. You got no choice. You got no choice. And the good part is that now that the social scientists and election experts have had a chance to look through the data, it wasn't a red wave. It wasn't the magnification of America. It was the economy and a couple of social issues that pushed some people over the edge. It was mainly the economy. It was the economy in 1992 with Bill Clinton. It was the economy now. It's just that we had so much going on with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and so little time that we couldn't really address it. And they did it. Let's be frank. I love Joe Biden. Kamala too. They were terrible salespeople for their own success. Terrible. We did it. We did it on the Midas Touch Network. We'll continue to do it. But the scorecard they should have been carrying around a cutout scorecard everywhere of all the successes, domestic and foreign. We're seeing the current foreign policy successes now in the Middle East. You think these things are happening because Donald Trump got elected? They're not. Okay. And so with that, it was the economy, which means as we can focus on selling our brand better and our values better, it bodes well to swing the pendulum back. It's not forevermore. This is still the country that elected Barack Obama twice, that elected Joe Biden. Okay, I know that we get Trump 1 and Trump 2, but we're not that country, and we can get our country back being together, linking arms, shoulder to shoulder. Popok Live is a place to start every Tuesday, 8 p.m., right here on the Midas Touch Network. Thank you from the bottom of my heart that people have followed me to this additional program and programming. I love it. I look forward to it. I look forward to preparing for it. My producers do too. We're doing this live chat thing now, which I really like. And then Legal AF, the YouTube channel, Legal AF MTN for Midas Touch Network. Help us grow that pro-democracy channel. That's going to be your go-to viewing during all these lawsuits being filed, so we can break it down for you and explain to you exactly what's going on, why and when. Legal AF, the podcast, right? That's Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time, full-length podcast. Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, back from some recent surgery. She's back with us tomorrow, and Saturday, of course, with my co-founder, Ben Meisalas. So I appreciate you all being here. Support our sponsors. That helps keep our independent network independent without outside investors. We appreciate them being here as well. So until my next Popok Live or anything related to Legal AF, I'm Michael Popok signing off.